It's highly likely that you are interested in a large 7-seat family SUV. I can tell this because you've clicked on this video, but also because it seems Australia is obsessed with large family SUVs. The problem though, as SUVs get bigger, so have their prices. This though is the GWM Tank 500, and with a starting price of just $66,500, this is the family SUV for one with thousands of children, but without thousands of dollars to spend. My name is Dan Gardner and you're watching Chasing Cars, and if you've liked this video, you know what to do. Hit like and subscribe, but don't do it yet. You might not like this video.
Chasing Cars, honest reviews of your next car. Brought to you by
Budget Direct. Now, as this is the Ultra variant, I get the most special equipment in this second row. So I've got my own climate panel down here. I've got some little storage cubbies, USB A and C, and a 12-volt power socket. I've also got a wide, comfy armrest for if you don't want to have 3 people across the second row of seating. Mat pockets, some nice materials, lots of headspace, and that's really what is most impressive in this second row, is space. It is absolutely cavernous. On longer journeys, I've got loads of room to feel relaxed and airy, and I've got a really good view out of the cabin. So, top marks for space in the second row as well. But this is a 7-seater, so we need to look at the all-important third row. Now, there's a really good level of adjustability to these second row seats. I can roll backwards and forwards, and also there's a little bit of adjustment on the actual angle of the backrest. Accessing the third row is pretty simple with that nice one lever system to get in and out. Now, once I'm back here, there is a respectable amount of space. I've got fairly lanky legs, but that seat is about as far forward as it goes. So to make me comfortable, it means people in the second row are going to be slightly uncomfortable. And once I'm back here, it's a bit Spartan. I've got some lighting for the third row, air vents, but that's about it. One cup holder, I don't have any USB charging points. It's about average back here. Adequate headroom. I wouldn't want to spend too long back here as an adult. But one thing that becomes clear once you get back here is that clever trick with the seat to allow easy access to the third row only works on the driver's side, which means if you park this on the side of the road, you're having to get people in and out of the third row from the traffic side. That might not be too good a feature for many families. When you get to the back, there is a big boot. But before you get in there, you have to access it via this huge Prado-esque barn door. It's not power operated, it's mechanical, which in my book is good, but there's a huge spare wheel hanging off the back of it, and it is vast in its dimensions, which means if you're parking close to anything, you've got access problems, especially with that wheel on the back, which I guarantee is going to get scratched on someone's garage wall. Once you get into the boot though, it is great news. Nearly 800 litres of volume to store things. One thing I do notice there's a lack of is there's no 12-volt power socket back here, so if you want to plug in a fridge or something like that, then you can't do it. But you do have this, which I love. This is increasingly a feature where you can stow the luggage blind under the floor so it doesn't get in the way and rattle around when you're trying to drive enthusiastically. Now, it is a 7-seater, as we've already demonstrated, and that is a very easy process. Push button operation, getting those seats into place. This is why I don't like power stuff, because it takes so long, and why I love mechanical opening boots. Once in place, you've got your pop-up headrests for safety, but here's where the problem starts. With the third row in place, that boot shrinks to fewer than 100 litres of space. So if you want to load up the entire family and stuff, you're going to have to look for other options. Up front, it is more of the same theme. I've got some really quite nice materials. This would look material on the dashboard, which may or may not be, but hey, ignorance is bliss. What I do know is real is the Napa leather seat upholstery, which is also very nice quality and in this rather attractive kind of quilted pattern. I've also particularly become a fan of this sparkly sky, starry sky dash decoration. You can change that through almost limitless numbers of colors. And the technology, at least on the initial impressions, is very good. I've got a 12.3-inch fully digital driver instrument cluster, which is quite customizable. There's loads of different information you can choose to be displayed on that central display, but this one is the one I really want to talk about. 14.6 inches it measures. It's absolutely vast, and if that wasn't enough display information for you, I also have a really nice large full color head-up display. Now, one of the criticisms of some of perhaps the earlier Chinese models, and some of the GWMs in particular, is there were perhaps a few things lost in translation, shall we say. And while My experience with this car so far is that most of them have been banished. You can dig a little deeper and find a couple. Now let me take you to one of my favorite screens, off-road mode. This actually has some really useful information in it. So you can see when you're off-road all of the dynamics of the car. You can see what the locking differentials and the transfer box by Borg-Warner is doing. You can see wheel articulations, tire pressures and temperatures. Really, really good systems. But if you go into this screen, which I particularly like, it's called the Conqueror Perspective. That is a feature we've seen in some other 4x4 models where the car essentially becomes invisible and a clever algorithm using the cameras around the car basically give you an unrivaled impression and image of your surroundings for when you're off-roading. But let's go back to the original screen and go into expert mode. This is what I particularly like. What's this? High-speed off-road racing. That sounds like a bit of me. Now, I haven't had a chance to try this feature yet, but does this car appear to be something that really offers a high-speed off-road racing mode? I'd like to be proved wrong. What I'd also like to be proved wrong about is a drift mode. Are you serious? Drift, confirm. Speaking of, I mean, I need no more encouragement with those two modes to hit the road and see what this thing drives like. Now, you may find it strange to hear that in a car like this, there is no diesel available. Strange because that's really what drives pretty much every large family SUV in Australia, particularly in this price segment. But no, in its wisdom, GWM has chosen to put under the bonnet of this quite an unusual powertrain. This car gets a 2-litre turbocharged petrol engine, not so strange, but what makes it unique is it's bolted to a hybrid system. No, bear with me, I can get you excited about this, because the combined output of that system is 255 kilowatts and nearly 650 Newton meters. And that is actually quite unusual in a car like this, particularly when you look at the price point. Now, speaking of price, I'm in the Ultra, which means it is a little bit more expensive. This car is about $74,000. But let me reiterate that the prices of these cars are drive away. So the bargain proposition is looking better and better all the time. So how does it work in practice? Well, 650 Newton meters is actually pretty respectable for a car of this size and weight. Particularly off the mark, there's really strong acceleration. When you get up into gear and cruising, it backs off to be a little bit more benign and unnoticeable. That drivetrain is bolted to a 9-speed automatic transmission. Now, if you're looking for shared drivetrains in any other brands manufacturers, stop right there, because this gearbox is made by GWM in-house. But the bit that isn't is the transfer box. That's made by Borg-Warner. So there's a kind of a good blend of in-house and also known quantities. If you're going to use someone's technology, make sure it's the best in the business, and Borg-Warner seems to be pretty much that when it comes to transfer boxes. This particular car gets locking front and rear diffs, and we get a 4 high and low transmission setting.
Again.
Oh,
Try something like play 102.6 FM radio or switch on seat heating.
I'm not really sure what that was. I think that was Siri interrupting, but this is probably a good point to talk about the things that aren't quite there. So GWM in its former years, and its formative years for that matter, had a few faux pas when it comes to technology. Things are a lot better today, I'm very happy to report, but there are still a few little remnants and relics of previous days, including some gremlins, like I've got a rattle coming from the dashboard somewhere, and we were driving along before and it just suddenly decided to engage sand mode for some reason when we weren't anywhere near the dial. So there's the little gremlins and quirks which aren't going to leave you by the side of the road or cause any too big problems, but they are still there. There's a couple other quirks that I wouldn't mind mentioning. One is the driver assistance systems. Now, GWM says it's worked really hard to refine them and make them a little less intrusive and frustrating, and I feel like to that end they absolutely have, but still it is very intrusive. On unsealed roads, it comes up with the lane departure warning all the time, even though there are no markings for it to go by. And just cruising along on roads like this, there are way too many warnings, completely false warnings for things that really aren't worth highlighting. So there's a little bit more work to be done there. The rest of the driving experience, I'm happy to report, is really quite respectable. The ride is very soft and very comfortable, and only some of Victoria's nastiest road imperfections can really hassle it at all. The brake pedal is a little bit squashy in traditional hybrid fashion. The steering is pleasant, smooth and quite sharp, and generally the whole experience of spending time in the Tank 500 is quite relaxing. So I was prepared to forgive this car an awful lot. GWM is still very much a challenger brand, and I feel like in that space, especially at the bargain prices this model is offered, you can kind of forgive a little bit. But in actual fact, I didn't really have to forgive a lot. Yes, there are a few bits and pieces that could be improved, but there's still a lot to like. And let's not forget that GWM's motto, its strapline, is improving little by little every day, and I feel with this car that is 100% true.